For 30 minutes straight.
Well, you know, we were all a little surprised.
He clearly has got it in there.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Alexander Woods,
Present.
Michaela Conlon-View,
Present.
Casey Weiss,
Here.
Jeanette Simonson, Nick Helsted,
Here.
Iftikhar Memon,
Here.
and Caitlin Cunningham.
Here.
And public verifications have been made.
Yes.
All right, no public comment. Moving on to community engagement, gifts and grants.
Sure, I'd like to start off by sharing that we received a grant. Patrick, our other technician who's gotten very involved in the VEX robotics at the middle school, wrote a grant to the Wanik Association, and they gifted him over $1,000 to be invested into and to further develop our VEX robotics competitive teams at the middle school. So it's not an amount that needs your approval, but certainly wanted you to be aware.
Okay. That's it. Okay, moving on to the MOU with Ho-Chunk Nation National Education Department.
I have a motion to move that first.
Oh, after 6.2, is it?
Oh, sure, sorry, that's where I wanted it placed, but you can make the motion anytime, sorry.
Oh,
You're right, just fine.
okay.
6.2 it is.
Me?
So the board has asked for a regular update on the work of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department. And I felt like one of the most significant pieces of that MOU is our ongoing collaboration with the Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department. Ariel Hall is a former longtime teacher for the school district of Black River Falls, and now she is the head of the tutoring division for Ho-Chunk Nation Education Department. I thought that it would be appropriate for you to hear directly from her about the relationship and the benefits that are evolving from our continued collaboration.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Ariel Hall, Tutor Services, and then there's 18 other hats I wear. So tonight I will be Education Department. I went through our MOU in each section and kind of highlighted or questioned parts where we're doing really good or places we need to strengthen. So on the white sheet in front of you is where I took notes on things that were going well and then things we needed improvement on. So at your leisure, if you guys could read through that and then email me, call me, get a hold of the department to see where we can close those gaps. Talking specifically to Tutor Services, if you flip that over, you'll see my fancy little blue, orange, and gray charts there. So those break down trimester 1, 2, and 3. And you can see it kind of splits down the middle, so there's math pass compared to math fail. And I think those numbers are phenomenal. Trimester 1, we were just starting and we did not have a tutor at the middle school, so there was no data collected. And then you go to trimesters 2 and 3, the numbers of our students passing classes in the middle school alone is enough to say, I personally feel like a second tutor would be amazing there, because that tutor is drowning. Black River has about 70 students signed up with Tutor Services in our district, majority are high school. So with that said, in the bold there, we had 22 students take and pass AP level courses at the high school this year, Native American. So whether they were Title VI or Ho-Chunk, that was amazing. We also, for the first time that my daughter turns 24 today, 37 out of 37 Native graduates this year. And I think that's the first we've hit 100% for our graduates. So kudos to everybody here for the work that has happened over the years. Thank you for allowing this MOU to take place so that we can come in and do our part and be a partner. And I just want to see it get higher and higher. I want the bar raised for every single student here. I'm also excited this year, if you look at the K-5 data, it shows a lot more growth on trimester 3. And we only got to dabble with Tiger Tails for 2 months. So I can't wait to see that improvement happen this year when we do a full round of the Tiger Tails Literacy Program. So that's what we have.
Does the board have any questions for Ariel?
Is it apparent what areas you want? Like, for example, I see under disciplinary alternatives, you put in asterisks and put that in bold. Is it very apparent on here where it is that you want to increase collaboration or communication?
We're very reactive right now instead of being proactive. So let's say a student has like 5 majors before it gets to a suspension or an expulsion, even just a suspension. We'd like to be notified, hey, so-and-so has been in the office 7 days this week, can you go have a conversation with them? We want to be part of that improvement plan rather than coming to the expulsion hearing with you guys and we're all just getting the information firsthand. We'd like to be able to step into that student's family to say, I'm coming over for dinner, we're going to talk about what happened.
Is that something that requires special weight
Permissions,
from the
yeah.
parents? Permissions?
Certainly, and so that is one of the provisions that we talked about significantly last year in the preparation of the family registration with tutoring services. So their division cannot work with a student unless the parent opts in. It's not a default for Native American families. And so we changed, and I think I shared that with you guys at a prior meeting, we changed that sign-up sheet to automatically include a release of information so that as soon as that is checked, that also will become a part of that kid's Skyward profile, so that when an administrator logs in, they see that the parent has provided us with permission to be able to communicate freely. And the MOU itself talks about expulsions and changes of placement specifically, but I certainly could see as the problem-solving teams are meeting during the day, if there's a tutor who is actively working with that child, for them to be pulled into that conversation as well. But it all comes down to the parent has to give us the permission to be able to do that.
So we'll see how that goes this year.
Yes,
Sure.
and now remember, this MOU was signed in May.
Yeah.
So as I was going through point by point, honestly, if these are the little things that stick out, I think we're still moving in the right direction.
Appreciate that. Can I ask a clarifying question about the 22 AP level courses that were passed? So I'm curious, were the tutors that were at the high school specifically coaching the students about their course selection? And did they, did the JOM funds or something pay the fee for them to take the AP courses? Did you discover that was a barrier?
So
How did, because that's a fantastic
yes,
number.
I know several of the students, it was AP history.
Okay.
And I know personally from working in the office with the high school tutors, they're like, they could take the course now because they have had to learn right along with the students. Majority of the tutoring through the AP courses was the writing. It wasn't the learning. It was the how do I respectfully say what I've learned in true paragraph form without using AI. So that was their biggest struggle. And I know a lot of my high school tutors throughout the state went to CISA classes on how to get students not to use AI and to actually write a formal paragraph. So I think as far as tutoring, it wasn't so much the subject, it was the how do we represent what we know through our own voice, because AI is a thing. We had a couple AP math courses that our Black River tutors weren't able to assist with. And so they networked out to a Madison tutor and a Milwaukee tutor who are both math geniuses, and so they helped them through those courses. And again, it was the kind of putting it from teacher talk into kid talk and then walking them through it from there.
And the cost of taking the AP test, is that something that tutoring services assisted with, or did families
No.
take care of themselves?
Families took care of themselves, but if you look at the beautiful, colorful packet, that is our SCR program. And so Dr. Redbird has the Johnson O'Malley program and the pre-K through 12 program. So Ho-Chunk tribal members can use the pre-K through 12 program to get reimbursed. And all Native Americans can use the JOM program to get reimbursed for those fees. I don't know which students used it and which ones didn't, but there are programs to cover the cost of those fees.
Excellent, and I've known about those programs for a long time, and we've always wondered
Yeah.
if the cost to take the AP test was one of the prohibiting factors, or if it was a confidence thing. And so
Yeah.
the funding sounds like it has not changed, so I'm not sure that was the problem. Perhaps it was the confidence to take them. So
Our
that's
families don't
fantastic.
know that funding is there either.
Sure.
So to build an army
Yep.
in this room too, to tell our students, get a hold of the tutors, they can tell you what's available for you, because our families don't know what they don't know.
That's great. Any other questions for Ariel? I mentioned to the board at a previous month that we had heard rumors that the fate of the tutoring program was a little bit less than certain. I asked Ariel briefly about it before, and she's in full conversations with the finance committee and feels confident that she's got a good proposal put together, and she'll keep us posted on the funding from her side.
And we may or may not need letters of support.
Happy to. Happy to.
Wink, wink.
Excellent. I think it looks like a celebration for the first year with the program, right?
I agree.
Great. Thanks so much, Ariel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I move to put 9.2 capital maintenance dashboard number 90 to the next item of business. All in favor, say aye.
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 Did we need a second on that first?
Oh,
or-
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, that's the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. 9.2 capital maintenance dashboard upper 90.
Excellent. Excellent.
Floor is yours.
So we have our partners here from Upper 90. For those that are new to the board, we've done several energy efficiency projects with the help of Upper 90, and our partnership our partnership has been very beneficial to us, as we have been able to realize some significant savings in utility costs through our energy efficiency projects. And so Ben and Mario have been before the board previously, and they've been talking to Brandon and I and Jill before that to talk about a relationship moving forward that would provide us with some auxiliary free services as a means of acknowledging the partnership that we've had, but would also make future projects that much more efficient. So with that, I would kick it off to Ben and Mario.
Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, board members. Again, my name is Mario Melanzi with Upper 90, and I'm joined here by Ben Terpning, my other business partner. We prepared a short memo for you for tonight, if you will, just sort of highlighting some of the messages of our presentation tonight. So didn't necessarily need to, cover all of that. Certainly want to, be here to answer any questions that you may have about that. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Shelley mentioned, we're proposing essentially it's a planning type of exercise where we're going to be using some software to help with the planning process around the district's assets and all the assets that are contained within the facility. Some of the features of both of that assessment and then sort of the secondary piece that comes with it is, let's just call it a type of a master contract where we're going to be able to work with the district in a fashion that can approve individual work orders basically from that planning list. So the agreement that we are proposing would have has standard construction terms in there in terms of insurance and payment and those kinds of things. Just looking to streamline that process for when Kent and team may look to have some assistance similar to the way that we've provided help on some other previous projects. From a timeline standpoint, I'm going to spend most of my time tonight just sharing a little bit about what that planning process would look like. But just from a timing, we're proposing that we would start this process fairly soon so that we could finish that planning exercise before you guys get into your budgeting cycle in the winter. Okay? From that standpoint, the next piece is if there are projects that the district is interested in doing, we would dive further into whatever that need would be and say, let's start collecting real contractor pricing, bids, those kinds of things. And then each year you would evaluate and say, these were the things that the district accomplished, and sort of update or refresh that plan going forward based on what you've already done, or maybe some needs change. Maybe things that weren't a priority have become a priority, or some of your equipment is having a good long life due to the way that you're taking care of it. So we can push those priorities further down, okay? So with that, Ben, if you'd be willing to just pop over to, what I'm gonna show here is a sample of a planning exercise that we've performed at a different district in Watertown. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how this planning tool is utilized, and we've got a dashboard here. This is a web-based platform. There's no ongoing subscriptions or fees or anything associated with that. We've got a little bit of some instructions, for lack of a better word, for how the users may interact with this dashboard. But go ahead, Ben. What we're doing here is collecting information through an audit process or an assessment process of every single asset that's in the district's facilities, everything from rooftop to blacktop and everything in between. And when we look at that piece of that asset in particular, we're going to be looking for, let's call it some scoring. We're going to be giving it a remaining useful life based on the life expectancy of that asset and what it might take to replace that asset when it's due at the end of that useful life. A couple of caveats to an audit or assessment like this is really not factoring in inflation. It's too hard to predict what those costs would be going forward. As well as we're not proposing any actual upgrades for those. So whatever you've got, we're proposing a like for like, if you will. So the same type of asset that's there, that's what that replacement value would be estimated. It's not a project tool, right? These aren't hard bids or anything like that. It's a planning exercise. So what you're looking at here is in Watertown, we've done this exercise for all of their facilities, and that table on the top is every single one of the assets. The graph down below shows those needs of all of the assets in each of those buildings over the course of a 30-year time period. So that large bar chart right there is for high school, just happens to be the one that they have the most needs at. The way this one of the benefits of collecting and viewing the information this way is it's not in a standalone spreadsheet. So what you can do is if Ben were to click on that high school, let's just say that bar chart, what it's going to do is update this list and show you all of those features just at the high school. Then we can sort, filter, gather any type of information that we would want for that high school. So maybe you're looking at a roofing project and you're wondering how are the roofs at, I think it might be under envelope. How are the roofs at this facility? So we've got walls and roofing and so on. We can do the same thing with mechanical or any of those subsets of those types of systems. So there's a really nice feature in terms of being able to kind of not manipulate the data, but use it to what you're trying to understand. The other thing I'll mention is as the auditors are going around, we're not just guessing as what this stuff is. These are subject matter experts. We're bringing sub-consultants and contractors to provide their input. And at the time, we're taking a photo and making some notes from what that auditor is doing. So this is a little piece of software that sits behind this dashboard where if you have a question, you want to say, well, what is going on with that roof or that boiler? Why is it being scheduled for replacement this year? You can come in and see the notes that auditor took and some photos that they took that day. Again, it isn't everything you'd want to know about it, but it's enough for you to be able to continue your planning conversations, and then maybe if those are a priority, you'd start to dig in deeper at that moment, okay? This is where our auditors will put that information in. I will also say it's a little subjective. We don't live in the building every day like Kent, so sometimes our auditors will say, based on our observation, we think this asset has a remaining life of 5 years. Could it be 3 or 4? Could it be 6 or 7? Probably it's just on a case-by-case basis. So,
yeah, it's meant to be a tool that's co-authored with the administration, with the facilities team, with your guys that are in the building every day looking at the stuff to make sure that we're actively or accurately reflecting what's really occurring in your building. Some, things might last 20 years, things might last 25 years, and what's the actual occurrence in your buildings? We want to make sure we get that accurate on here.
You bet. So the last feature, this is a two-page or two-part dashboard. Kind of designed this a little bit around some of the COVID stuff, if you remember some of that going on with the cases and the sort of stuff. But one of the most powerful pieces of information, I think, is this next slide. From a business case standpoint, what we're really looking to do with this planning tool is be able to be a little more predictable and budget-friendly with what's going on in the district. So what you're looking at here is it's a graph of all of the assets in the district over a 30-year period based on all these peaks and valleys of when these assets are, in terms of our auditors' evaluation, scheduled to, for replacement. So in this example, they've got a peak at both that 5-year instance and looks to be maybe like a 15-year, and even one a little bit, immediately. So, the planning conversations at this district sound something like, we should start planning for some facility needs, maybe some kind of small things, maybe that's going to be out of our budget, but we probably can't afford a $20 million hit to our budget, so we need to start thinking about taking care of some of the capital and maintenance that's going to be coming down the road. And what is it? And you start getting into those kinds of things, okay? Ben, if you could just move that from 30 to maybe, let's just try 15 or 10. The reason I'm suggesting that is sometimes 30 years is I think it's hard to plan for, right? It's just a harder number to kind of think through. So when we will go through this conversation messaging with our clients in Black River Falls, it's a little easier conversation to look at, what a 10-year outlook might look like. This district asked us to provide some other features of this dashboard in terms of enrollment. That blue line is their current expenditures, their current budget allocation. So from a visual standpoint, you can sort of clearly, intuitively see that if they keep doing things the way that they're doing it, that they'll have a significant number of assets that will be, exceeding their useful life. Okay. Any thoughts, questions on this this proposed dashboard that we would be doing for Black River Falls?
So I recently was in a training through WASB about
Yeah.
pitfalls and things to watch out for
Sure.
when you're dealing with the insurance company. And given that we've had, claims over the course of the last, how will that interact with and support, how will this information interact with and support those kinds of activities in the future?
Do you mean like, let's just say you had a claim for like a new roofer as an
Yes.
example? So if you were to put a new roof on from that claim or windows or whatever, we would come into our system and say the windows in such and such building are brand new. We'd add it in as that asset and put it for however long that asset was expected to last for.
This shouldn't lock you into like a price from like an insurance adjustment standpoint. Like in that case, you would file a claim and your adjuster would come in, assess the roof, and that would be independent of anything we'd have here. And then if they did want to reference this and say, oh, well, you did an assessment 2 years ago and the roof said this, we're always conservative in nature. As Mario said, this isn't a project price, this is a planning tool. It's just to try to get you in the ballpark. So I would guess that our price we'd have in here for a roof would be more expensive than it would be the actual price to do that work at a later date kind of thing.
But tracking it, because I think it's important to know, and you're like, well, wait a minute, is that roof old or new or that whole thing? So thank you, Ben, for the adjuster piece on the price. You're right, that would have no effect. But just in terms of making sure that you
Capture it.
you capture that and you're not losing track of that new asset.
Good question.
If this is a planning tool, do you have any sort of alerts for things like programs that'll be expiring, like cost of boilers can be covered by some sort of government grant for the next 2 years, but only if you submit by December or whatever it might be? Do you have any sort of connection with that sort of world?
Great question. I think one of the things that we would have in here is for newer assets would sort of be able to capture any warranty periods. You can capture a lot of that information in there, but we haven't put anything related to like expiring grants. But I'll tell you what, we've built this tool over the last 5 years, and some of the features that we've added to this have been provided by our clients, and I love that idea in terms of thinking about exploring something to be able to add to it like that.
In some of our previous projects with Upper 90, when there have been rebates available, and we were, like, our pool project is a good example, and then we did the solar, all of that stuff all connected, it became in our prioritization of what comes first, what comes next. It was, there is a rebate on this piece, so we should prioritize doing that piece first so that we can take advantage of that, and then the other. So once we're more project specific, certainly have been helpful with that, but not necessarily in this kind of planning.
So somebody is watching that.
Absolutely.
But I was just gonna add, it's like if we were to go down this path with you guys and like we've done with other clients, is we'd look at the next 5 years of needs, right? And try to say strategically what in the next 5 years really needs to get done, what can wait a little bit, what does Kent and his team want to tackle internally, what makes sense for us to help with, is there energy savings, is there rebates, is there grants, all those things, and kind of look at that 3 to 5, like as you're picking projects, you look at it at a 3 to 5 year window kind of thing, right? To make sure you're not missing out on those opportunities.
Could you guys tell me if Watertown, is this a public facing dashboard or is it internal facing dashboard?
It's up to you. So this could be a link, we host it, and so we've had a few clients say, hey, we just want to use this for our internal discussions, and others have decided to share that with any public or whatnot. Usually when folks are having that planning, it's kind of a nice way to demonstrate that transparency. We want to foster that, maybe not pushback, but that engagement and interaction for Kent's team to say, actually, that asset, we think that one, we take pretty good care of that one. Can you extend the life of that one? And we're like, great. There's no.
The boiler at Gebhardt is living way above your chart
Yeah.
right now, right? Would have been exited a long time ago on your chart.
Well, I
It's
think, yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing I was going to add is we've used it in the past where districts have just put this link right on their website and said we're going for an operating referendum or a capital referendum, and this is why we are looking for that support, is because look at these needs, and community can click through the photos and they can do all of that stuff to kind of see these are real issues, these are real problems we're having.
Does the estimated energy savings, is that something that you can factor in? Because I see for some of these items you have estimated energy savings. You mentioned that you're only doing replacement in kind. Do you have any sort of option where you can suggest you can replace in kind, but for $50,000 more, you could save $300,000 over the next 10 years?
In this example, I think we don't do it on most, but I think in this example, the client requested something similar. So Ben just did a little sorting by the items that have the most energy savings potential. So when you're prioritizing, you can factor that in and say, I'll use lighting as an example. The lights aren't burned out, but if we were to replace them today, we would be taking advantage of these savings. So, yeah, absolutely. You
Well, I
guys have
think-
you tackled a lot of those, what I would consider the low-hanging fruit over some of the phases of work that we've completed here, which is great. But
Yeah, and I think a lot of those items would get tackled in that same project planning process, right? We're looking at the energy savings rebates. Is there economies of scale of doing like projects across the district? Is there economies of scale of doing some HVAC projects, some controls projects together, things of that nature?
So our interest in bringing this to you is that right now the way our district has done capital maintenance projects is that Jill and the principals and Kent would get together once a year. There's this big 10-year plan document, but it is a spreadsheet that stands alone, right? And so it needs a lot of explanation every time you come to it. We really like the interactivity of it, and to be honest, I'm pretty proud of the position that some of our facilities are in, and so would love for our community to be able to see that in a visual way as well, while also not forgetting about the projects that are still outstanding. And so I felt like this would be a great way for you guys as board members to keep tabs on some of those projects. And I laughed when you said the year of the that the roof was done. I feel like we do a roof over like a 3 or 4 year span. So that roof is a 21, 22, 23, 24 roof is what that one is. But
no, that's great. Thank you, Shelley.
any questions from the board?
Would you be interested in having this be public facing?
I think so. I was going to leave that to your opinions, but I don't know why we wouldn't share.
And of course, we can, enhance the branding, to fulfill, your district guidelines and that type of thing.
There's also the ability, I mean, it is an app, so we can add, remove items as you see fit if you wanted. There are certain things, or if you want to only go 5 years or 10 years, or if you wanted to filter whatever was shown, we have the ability to do that. However,
Customized.
yep,
Yeah.
however the board would want to do that.
Any questions? They are providing the service at no fee to customers that have had a long-term relationship with them, and so it really was just us giving them the green light to go ahead and start moving forward with that process and share out the dashboard as it is generated. So, anything else you guys need from us?
No. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the hard work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thanks for making the trip, gentlemen. Appreciate
One
it.
thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Back to 6.3, immunization compliance, school exclusions.
Sure. So the immunization laws have evolved, and last year was the first introduction, but it was still a trial period. Not a trial period, it was a notification period, but without full enforcement. This school year, there is full enforcement. And so all students and parents have the first 30 days of school before they're expected to be compliant on all of their immunizations. The state requires 99% compliance, and just to be really clear, compliance for the state is either proof of immunization or a waiver signed by the family. So a family just has to do one or the other. They don't have to be immunized to be considered in compliance. The law states that kindergartners who do not have all of their immunizations up to date must be excluded if they don't have immunizations or the waiver. So if they're non-compliant at kindergarten level, after those 30 days, they have to be excluded from school. Elizabeth Johnson, our school nurse, has said that she starts making those phone calls just before, well, immediately before, plus last spring, plus lots and lots of communication. But before we exclude a student, she makes sure she's reaching out, our CHWs are reaching out, and we tell the family, starting this stage, your child can no longer come to school until you either fill out this waiver or you show proof of immunization. That's what state law is. The new changes have a similar stop point at 7th grade and at 12th grade. However, the state does not dictate whether we need to exclude at that point or not. And so that is a local decision. We still have to do all of the notification, and we still call, and we still try, and we still do all of the things. But if they don't immunize and don't fill out a waiver, we don't, by law, have to exclude them at that point in time. So I am bringing that to you saying kindergarten, it is a very quick way for the parent to get engaged because children have been sent back home. They rode the bus and they were to be excluded. Child was driven back home. Parent either complied with filling out the waiver form at that time or made an appointment for the immunization. Student came back to school. So your thoughts on full compliance and whether we would want to exclude older kids for not being in compliance. And I just want to remind you that while they're considered compliant if they have a waiver, if there should be an outbreak, students with a waiver would then be excluded until it was deemed to be safe by public health again. So we don't exclude, they're considered compliant until there's an outbreak, and then they would have to be excluded because they had the waiver and not the immunization. So,
Interesting.
yeah, right?
First of all, I know obviously individual student health information is protected, but do we get a sense of what percentage of the student body is on waivers? every year?
Absolutely. What did she tell me? No, she told me the total compliance rate. I think she said last year there was like 5 kindergartners. I think that were excluded for a day or more. She shared that by the time we got to, so before it was 6th grade, not 7th grade, and she said that number of waivers, not immunizations, waivers, not immunizations, I think she said we had about 15 waivers for that grade level. So there's about 110 to 130 kids in that grade level.
10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how many are in compliance by 7th grade?
So our overall compliance is 97.43, and the state considers us compliant at 99%. So we were below the state compliance rate.
For 7th.
And as a district, they compile it all together as a district for our state, or for our district rate.
So do you feel if we were to withhold the kids from being able to come to school if they weren't compliant, it already would go up then?
I do believe our compliance rate would go up.
So I guess my 2 cents is that, I mean, we need to be compliant with the state for that. And, you know, is the fact that we're not taking our 7th and our 12th graders and expecting either the waiver to be filled out or the immunization records to be on file. I mean, it seems like an easy thing to ask the parents to do, in my opinion, and we should be compliant.
I just I'm just like playing this in my head. At 16, parents aren't able to access that anymore from HIPAA because kids' records are like governed by themselves at that point.
Should make it even easier than the kid comes to school
Yeah.
and fills out their own form.
Is that
At 16, a student cannot fill out the waiver themselves. They
that's
need
what I'm concerned about.
to be 18 in order for that to happen. But a parent can still sign the waiver at any point in time. So basically, what the question comes down to is, are we going to force the parents to take some action, or are we going to let it be passive and we accept the parent not taking action in either a waiver or immunization?
I agree with Casey. It makes perfect sense. That will up our numbers and get us compliance with state law. That seems to be the thing to do, regardless of your feelings on immunization waivers, one way or the other. If you want immunization waiver, get it.
Yep.
But not having the vaccination and not bothering to get the waiver is putting the school in an unacceptable position. And as an aside, when kindergartners have been sent home for not having, do some of them get vaccinations?
Some do. Mm-hmm.
So that means that the student population is safer and those kids are safer. So from having sent those kindergartners back home for a day, you might have saved some kid's life. That seems worth it.
Is someone willing to put that into a motion?
Was it a motion?
Yeah.
I'll
I'm willing to make
Okay.
a motion.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
What is the motion?
Okay,
Okay,
then,
make me spell this out, Marty.
Okay.
since you're making the motion, let's
Yeah,
use it.
so I feel that the same regulation enforcement that we're doing for the kindergartners, we would also keep that, we would make that same enforcement be apparent for 7th graders and for our 12th graders, per what the state requires.
And that's after 30 days. If there's nothing on file, they get sent home.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. It's ready to
Is
vote.
that third, seventh graders and high schoolers?
Well,
Okay,
12.
12, yeah.
Both.
sorry, yeah, third high schoolers.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
So if I could just clarify, Jeanette, okay, thank you. There's probably a little delay. I was just gonna clarify that you have full voting rights as an electronic member of the meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, so, great.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
Good, Marty, then?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Just moving on now to 6.4. Draft referendum timeline and background information.
So based on some of our previous conversations, I put together a draft referendum timeline that would take us to the April 2026 election. And this is 100% a draft, and I am bringing it to you for your input and potential approval. Remembering that in order for a question to be on the referendum ballot in April, it has to be passed 70 days prior, which means by January 27th, this board would have to pass a resolution authorizing that the language to be on the ballot. So I just did some rough planning from now until that January board meeting to try to provide for as much feedback and input as possible. I did launch this idea with the whole staff when we were gathered today, and I used the term repeatedly that the board was seeking input on what are those levers that are going to positively impact student achievement, and that we were interested in doing multiple listening sessions, one at each building, out in community locations, bring all that information back. We would put some numbers alongside all of those recommendations, and then we'd go for round 2 of feedback and input once people see some dollar amounts attached to it and what that possible impact would be. I don't know if you've had the chance to look through this. I am wide open for input. We can talk through some of the other referendum materials that were included in there, but wondered if you had any comments on the timeline itself.
First of all, did you do all this?
Yes.
I was gonna say, this is awesome.
Thank you.
I did not expect, this is what I would have hoped for, but to get such a clear outline of how to make this happen. Because I know the board, at least me, was like, please tell us how to make this happen. And this is kind of that, and I really appreciated this.
Thank you.
So Shelley, is this similar to what you've put together in the past or something?
It is, except operational is different than capital, right? And
But
yep.
it's from a time frame standpoint.
Absolutely.
though, I mean,
Now is the time to start talking about it. We've got all of the fall sports happening. It's the time to start putting some QR code surveys into our programs at athletic events so people can share their thoughts electronically in that means. It's time to start scheduling some listening sessions. What I'm interested in knowing, so my hope at the end of all this conversation is that the board would make a motion and officially establish an ad hoc committee for operational referendum conversations, because that is the official you tasking us with this process, which means a majority of the board members believe that this is the right thing to do. I've heard from several of you that this is an avenue you're interested in exploring, but official board action speaks much more clearly than conversation that we've had. And then I think it would behoove us to have a conversation about which of the board members wants to be on that ad hoc committee, because I think it's going to be important when we do community listening sessions that some of your faces are there too, and that you're hearing some of the things yourselves, so that it's not all filtered through admin and others who are there. But that's what I would hope for, is that we could, by the end of the discussion, you could decide whether this was something that we wanted to officially task us to move forward with, and then talk a little bit about what layers of participation each of you were interested in doing. Yes.
Just thinking about, and this, I'm trying not to get tangential at all, because I don't want to get off topic. But we just had the people talking about efficiencies in purchasing and everything else, and how we could actually save money by doing. I've just been doing back to school shopping. I know everybody on camera has been doing back to school shopping, and I bought 24 Ticonderoga pencils. I bought all these things retail. I have teachers asking me, to buy snacks, because there's no snacks for the classroom. So I'm buying those retail. And every other parent in this town is going out and buying Teddy Grahams or whatever retail for their school classes. And I thought, geez, can't the school just buy a flat pack of these things? Can't we buy these in bulk? Is there a way that part of this referendum can actually show how we could save parents money through this referendum? For example, if you buy 10,000 Teddy Grahams and every parent in the district doesn't have to go to Walmart and buy those things retail, you could actually save people money.
If we buy anything, we're saving families money, right? I mean, so the second the families
I
are
know.
paying for it, we're saving them money.
So that's
but-
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
So my attitude about the referendum and all these things is that the school district can use a little bit of money more efficiently than
Purchasing
I can.
power. Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm just saying is, this is a harder sell than a construction budget. It's hard to tell people, let's spend more money on the school. Just my only recommendation is when you sell this, maybe spell out some of the ways that we can actually, if you give us an extra $1, we can save you $1.50 in these areas. Like there are some ways where a referendum will actually save parents money flat out. And I just think that every time we can sell that issue,
Excellent.
the
I
school
appreciate that
having these
later on you
resources.
said we sell it, because we have to be really clear, this has to be a group conversation.
Oh, I
This
know, and
cannot
it's-
be Shelley Severson's
This is a
conversation, right?
huge lift.
Yeah, it is, it is.
One
But-
piece that was talked about and then kind of came back with the biennial budget, you know, is the faculty, are they committed, do they feel like we need to invest more into each student within the district? I mean, I think you showed us a lot of information about how most school districts have already asked for this type of stuff from their communities, and we're one of the few that have not. So, but you feel like the support is there, like there's still a shortfall?
So honestly, today was the first day I really introduced the idea. So with all district staff there, I showed them the next chart that talked about the CPI increase. Would you mind going to that? Thank you, Brandon. So I shared this with staff. I tried to give like big picture things, not get too far into the weeds. And the purpose of this is to just try to talk about why school funding is broken. School funding is complicated and not easy to explain to people. What this basically says is CPI, which is a widely accepted measure of inflationary increases each year, if schools would get an increase each year commensurate with CPI, they would be able to keep up with all of the purchases that they need to have. And so what this chart shows us, for example, in 9-10, CPI would have said that we needed $274.68 more per pupil in order to keep up with inflation. Instead, the legislature gave us $200, which created a gap of 74. And so on and so forth. When you look all the way down to 2015, 2016, inflation would have said $305, we received $0. Now that year in 15-16, our health insurance costs went up. We wanted to give staff raises. Our utilities went up. Our gas for our transportation went up. Our buses became more expensive. Our toilet paper got more expensive, right? And so we have been forced to pay inflationary increased prices on all goods and services while not being funded at that level. And so each year when we bring a balanced budget to you, we talk about how we reprioritize what we are spending our money on. Sometimes it means cuts, sometimes it's slight cuts in order to balance, sometimes it's great big cuts, but then an add over something that we reprioritize higher. But in the end, we have not kept up with inflation, and if we want to keep our staff, we absolutely must do that. So this chart came up with a deficit of $4,000 that we are below inflationary spending over the course of these years, and that's a pretty significant
Per
chunk.
student.
Per student, exactly. And so if you think about if we spent an additional $1,000 per student, so we are a low spending district because that's where we were locked in. So we spend $11,325 per student. Our neighbors in Melrose Mindoro spend over $14,000 per student. That is another $1,000 per student is $1.6 million into our budget. Like that is significant. And so when you look at the map one, I think is next for you, Brandon. This, I know we've talked about it before, but when you look at us right there, Black River Falls, the big green, you can look around all of those that are either a darker green or are blue. They're spending another $1,000 per student. When you have 1,600 students, that is a significant change there. So that is the other component of it. And then we're gonna skip the other map for now, Brandon, if you would go to the last page, this one, thank you. This tries to paint a picture of the number of districts that go to operational referendums. And to Casey's point, I'm just gonna bring us back to School Finance 101. In 1993 is when the legislatures passed the revenue limits. They locked every school district in wherever they were in 1993. If you were spending a lot in 93, you got locked in there and you've had those extra dollars all the way through. We were super fiscally responsible. I wasn't here in 1993, graduated college, and we got locked in very low. And so we have been stuck in that low point all the way through. The only time we get to spend more is when there is a per pupil adjustment, when there's equalized aid adjustment, when there's any of those things, or we ask for a referendum. And so I just thought it was really interesting that 82% of all schools have already asked for an operational referendum. And when you get down to the point that 20% of the school district have used this option more than 6 times. I have colleagues in this very region that it's just like clockwork. Every 3 years they go back to their community for an operational referendum. I don't want to be that. I don't aspire to have to do that. But the legislature has said when they didn't give funding increases per student, they said if you want more money, you have to ask your local communities. And then all the schools started asking their local communities, and the communities said yes, and then the legislature was frustrated that people's taxes were still going up when they said no. So then they changed the rules and they said, well, you can, if your community says no, you can't go back and ask them again for a couple of years. Like if they say no, you can't just refigure it a little bit and then come back the next time and ask them. So it's this game of if we're not going to fund you, ask your community, and then communities are saying yes too often and they're saying, wait, we're going to keep trying to adjust the rules a little bit, and it just keeps getting kicked out further and further and further. So the point is it doesn't take a colossal amount of dollars to have a dramatic impact, right? When the special ed funding changed, we had a $400,000 increase. That was going to be enough for us to get our buses up to date. That was going to be enough for us to add other positions that we had prioritized. But then in that same budget move, they also increased the out payment for open enrollment out, and they took every penny of that $400,000 that they had just given us. So in this year that they're celebrating the year of the kid in the annual budget, we ended up at a flat rate. We're right back where we were last spring. Now there are other districts who are celebrating, like they are huge winners because they got the special ed reimbursement and they have huge open enrollment in. And so they got a double bonus here. They're doing fantastically this year, able to, spend all the things that they want to. So the double whammy is what absolutely killed us this year. I was really hopeful that the biennial budget would come back and we wouldn't have to go to a referendum. I simply don't see a way around it without asking our community at this point. So that's the background information that I put together to share, and I would love an ad hoc group to start talking about talking points. I think at first round of all these meetings, it's listening, just going out and listening, giving a little bit of education about the referendum process and state funding and why we're at this point. My fear is that when you ask for operational referendum, too many people believe it's because of mismanagement of funds, right? They say, well, if you lived within your means, you wouldn't have to come and ask us for money for this, right? Well, our means keep diminishing because of rules that are being swept across every single district, but impact individual districts very, very, very differently. And so I think it's a very compelling story. We just need a lot of people to be able to speak to all of those parts of it and to be able to educate the community. Yeah, how long here? Okay. Well, first we need an action that says we're moving forward, and so you're not passing a resolution. We might get to end all these conversations, and every single conversation, every listening session says don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. We'd be kind of fools to go ahead and do it. So what we're asking for authorization on is to create an ad hoc committee to explore the possibility of a referendum.
I think I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it alone. So I would
Absolutely
hope
not.
that there'd be other people interested in partnering.
Yeah,
But I don't want to make a motion to do it and then be the only one.
I'll make a motion to approve an ad hoc committee to explore a referendum.
Perfect. Thank you.
Alright, we have a motion for a second.
I'll second.
Alright, I'll vote on it then. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Hi.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
Excellent. And so, if you look at September, we are already doing some listening sessions with staff members. And so, that developed communication plan, I am very happy to work with our marketing team. They do excellent work at creating some FAQ just on the questions that we are going to be asking people, right? So right now, we're not saying come support our referendum, we're saying come talk to us about what is going to help improve outcomes for students in the school district of Black River Falls.
Are those listening sessions going to be during school hours or after school?
With staff, it would probably have to be right outside of
Right outside.
school hours, yeah. I mean, we have done some breakfast ones, right, where we're out of school by like 7 and in the LMC and some can come down and visit, but
How is it?
You look-
we don't get as great of turnout. I'm really curious about turnout after, again, today was the only day of the year that we literally have every staff member and they all heard that launching today. And so I'm hopeful that we'll have some good engagement. Like there's gonna be a meeting over at the bus garage, which would be during the school day. So that would be when that might be available for you. Our nutrition services, we could probably do during the school day. So I think we can schedule a balance. Community ones, I'm really open to your ideas where you think people would come gather. I would think either the tribal office building or the D1 Center, down at the public library, perhaps at the hub, at the Lenda Community Center, and those we can work on some scheduling. I just think that September is all about listening first, that we can start putting some things together.
Can we do different variations of format for the listening sessions? Okay.
Do we need to put together the committee membership then?
I would love some indication of who's willing to be a spokesperson for this, or if you prefer that I share the information and then you're there to be listeners. I just would like a little direction from you as to what your preferences are.
What is your preference? How would you like to?
I want you to feel great about your participation and engagement, and I'm willing to do whatever grunt work you need, or I'm happy to be the spokesperson. I'm happy to do it all. I just want to be confident that it is the work that all of you want us to be doing.
How many of us can actually be it?
So 3,
So the same as a-
but we have had listening sessions for one of our facility ones where, because it is an ad hoc committee of the board, that means it is considered a public meeting, which means it would have to be posted. And that means that we could say there will be no work of the board being completed. There will be no decisions of the board being completed. It's just a listening session, and then you could all be there if that's what you wanted. So I guess maybe are you asking me to put together a calendar of some of these events, and then we could use an electronic means for you all to tell me which ones you are available for?
Yeah.
That
You're
sounds super.
That's a really good idea.
Yes.
You're saying the whole committee would be the whole board then?
I'm saying the whole board could come and do some listening, and then perhaps we would carve into a smaller group for some of the framing of all that and what our key talking points are going to be, right? In my opinion, you all have to be informed every step of the way. You have to know the same information, but that could be an ad hoc that meets and then reports back to the full board and so on and so forth. I'm also going to ask for some staff member representation on that ad hoc committee. I don't know if you feel like we want some parents, some community people also to be on that ad hoc. I'd be really open for some suggested names. Obviously, Brandon and I will both be there. Years ago, before I was in this chair, when we did some facility referendums, in my opinion, one of the challenges was that we had the entire admin team there, and the number of admin outnumbered the number of community members, and that doesn't feel very listen-y. It feels very, the opposite. And so if we get active engagement from community and staff, then other admin, but I don't want admin to overpower the community input either.
I mean, it's a listening session, right? I mean, it's not a talking session for any of us, so in my opinion, like having 2 board members there, it's a kind of help Shelley with the event, or I think it would be plenty for a listening session, you know.
Over.
Right. And if we're all committed to want to have some skin in the game for this thing, then, you know, I think we can just get the list of events out there and let each one of us sign up to participate and just cap it at 2 of us, maximum maybe 3 that would be there. So, like Jeanette's opinion on something like this, since it's hard for her to weigh in. But can you hear that, Jeanette? It's gotta go all the way to Hawaii, so it's.
It's very hard to hear, so I'm trying to really listen, but
I can speak up louder, I guess, for you, but I'm curious, like, what I talked about was possibly 2, potentially 3 of us maximum participating from the board at each one of these listening sessions. And if all 7 of us are interested in, you know, having a part of that at some point in time, if we were to just rotate and pick particular sessions that we would all attend, to the maximum of 3 at each session and minimum of 2 that would come to each listening session. Is that something you would be interested in doing, since we can't get any nonverbals from it today?
I like that.
Okay. So how about,
I feel it gives the board opportunities to attend.
perfect, thank you, Jeanette. I will, by the early next week, I will get a rough schedule of engagements for September and October out. And to all of you competent on Doodle, if I send it out and you can click whichever ones work for you, and then I can report back. So it'll send you an email, you'll open up a calendar and you put all of them that work for you, and then we can make sure we have some coverage at all of them and not, full board coverage wouldn't be wrong, it would just be a lot. So, but I can share that out by early next week, select those dates for September, October, if that works.
And I guess then I propose that then Nick can kind of look it over and he can just pick and choose like who will be at each one then.
Okay.
You know, if
there's too many
signed up, then just let Nick filter it out and let people know which one you're responsible to attend.
Going or something.
So, you alright with that, or you want to pass it on to your vice president?
We'll fight over it.
Those community engagement initial sessions in October, will that, I mean, rather than, you know, selecting parents, is that gonna go out in a newsletter and everything, so parents can select themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so the deadline for Tiger Tribune submissions is like August 28th, so I will get something put together to go in there, but then it takes, almost like 3 weeks from the time we submit it. So that might not go out till mid to late September, so I will definitely do some community, you can see the community introduction was actually in October, so we can get all the October dates in that newsletter.
Okay.
And in my opinion, September and October is all about what do you think are the levers that are going to, right? So I feel like it's a lot of listening, and then the second round of them is here's what we heard, here's the cost associated with those, here's what we're thinking. Is that kind of your thought process as well?
Probably, I guess. And I feel like I'm kind of a little ignorant about this process, but you know, that's fine. Because I've never been through it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess basically C3, I guess it could go, it could not pass. It could pass with like money that we use for the defeasance that we already have or use. Plus, I'm thinking the interest rate of that is probably really low. So it might be, you know, or we get more money from taxpayers.
That's an excellent point. So when we did our second facility referendum in 2020, we were able to borrow or issue debt for an additional $23 million, and the levy did not change because we were over levying in order to pay off our debt sooner. So we have avoided almost $3 million of interest payments by maintaining our levy rate a little bit more consistently over time. There is still a gap in there after that second referendum. That's something Brandon and I are going to investigate with Baird, our financial partners, is what is that dollar amount that we could ask for that would still allow our levy to not be increased, that we would reduce our defeasance even more so. And so then we could talk about it still not increasing their taxes is most definitely a part of it. Just to be clear that this kind of referendum and operational does not issue debt, so the interest rate wouldn't come into play because we're not issuing debt. It is basically saying we're going to tax our community more. And so in this scenario, we would tax our community more for that money, and instead of putting it in our defeasance, we would use it for operational costs, is what it could look like, just to try to simplify that in your minds.
I
Yes.
feel like when we're going into listening sessions, it would be really, so much like Nick, this is my first rodeo.
Bill, talk about that.
Yeah, I think it would be hugely beneficial to take a look at other school districts that have gone for operations successfully and kind of see how they framed the possibilities, because I think asking parents, you're gonna get, probably some feedback, but giving them some framework for how to think about it would be helpful before we, so they can dive into the conversation with a little more context.
And I also want to remind everybody, agree 100%, and 60% of our tax base does not have children in school. So we keep talking about parents. This is going to be sold to our entire community, not just parents. And I think that creates an additional challenge because parents have a little more skin in the game, if you will. The homeowners who don't have children in school anymore. There are many, our last referendum pass was 60% passage rate. So many that still believe in supporting public education, but it's a different conversation than talking to the parent of a kindergartner who's got the long haul in front of them. So the other, I thought of one more piece.
I guess, what the teachers think that it actually uses money for, I think is pretty valuable, because you're just saying, oh, we're gonna throw another $1 million or two at it and make the kids smart. That's gonna be tough to sell.
Agree 100%.
And it should be. I mean, that's
Yes.
not, I don't, that's,
Yes.
who wants to go to a taxpayer and tell them that?
So the other piece to just tuck in the back of your brain, I made a joke about the Gebhardt boiler, but it's really not a laughing matter. So let me just put this out there. When people do an operational referendum, they will often do a multi-year referendum. It would be possible to ask for more in the first year and say that we're going to do something with the Gebhardt boiler and then significantly reduce that to a much smaller number for the second year and the third year. So I'm not saying that we're at that point, but Kent would say they're 3D printing parts for that boiler because you can't buy them anymore. So it is aged. And so that will be a discussion because right now the entire use of that building is community service. We are using it for the food pantry, and we allow the food pantry to use it on one side, and we use the other side for a child care center. That whole building is dedicated to community service right now, and it's going to need a boiler that is over $1 million. That boiler is original to the building, 1954, and it is tired. So that would be a possibility. While we've done so much facility stuff, that's that last really big piece hanging out there. And in our operational referendum, you can have different amounts, different years. So a big chunk and then can get much smaller.
Would that also be beneficial to engaging and creating an opportunity for the community to benefit as a whole for those who don't have children in the school district? Because that's a community service
Absolutely. The food pantry being there and yep, absolutely. So all of that to be said, I appreciate your action and your support getting started. I'll get some dates out to you, and I will probably start putting together some draft communication pieces from all of the stuff that you saw. Perhaps you could share with me individually what pieces were helpful to you, which pieces were not so helpful, you found them confusing or not helpful, and we'll start putting together, because I think before you can start talking about these things, we do have to paint a picture as well. We have to tell people why we're even engaging in the conversation. There's no smoke and mirrors happening here, so.
And this might be an aside, but I think getting all the board members on board and agreeing would be impressive, because, I mean, people have been elected, by majorities. I mean, if Nick's not on board, Nick is popular. Lots of people voted for Nick. Lots of people are expecting Nick to represent them. If Nick's not on board, I don't know that I would want to be. on board. Because if we can't get everybody in this room on board, how are we gonna go ask the taxpayers? So this is I mean, your point about, I hear Nick immediately saying like, we don't wanna just ask for money, and like, to me, that, if Nick's skeptical, we gotta convince Nick. We gotta make everybody in this room on board with this. Or how are we gonna even pretend to go out there?
Absolutely.
And
So-
I would like to see more data on other schools' asks and how those were concocted and what things they found were beneficial after having passed it.
Okay. So as far as what they asked, there is each election, I get a massive spreadsheet for every single school district that asked a question, what that question was, and whether it passed or failed. I've shared them a couple times, but I think after the last couple elections I've sent them out, I certainly can do that. People ask for any number of things, right? My opinion is only ask for exactly what you need and don't be fluffy about it, right? We're not gonna say we want an open checkbook, we're saying these are the critical pieces that we feel like we need to add. So we can certainly supply that info for you. Anything else on that topic? Great, I appreciate the dialogue a great deal.
All right, moving on, 6.5, annual operating resolution.
So these are nothing new. These are resolutions that the board has to adopt each year, just to officially name who is in charge of some of the different programs. I will tell you, I was going to talk about it when we got to the employment, but I have to look for one that we are going to change. Title 6. There's a resolution about Title 6, if I find it. The second one, the first one on the second page names Jason Wilhelm as the Title 6 administrator. He will not be serving that role this year, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit during employment recommendations. He has, I can tell you now, so Jason is sitting back there. You want to smile and wave to everyone. Jason was hired last spring as our new assistant principal at Red Creek Elementary, and then Rachel Gamreth last week accepted a job in her hometown of Independence as the principal there. And we wish her well and are salty about the timing, but that's okay. It can't be helped, right? It cannot be helped. Jason has quite a bit of experience as a principal in other districts, and because of the late date, I was not interested in a long posting process and interviewing all of those things when we just had a candidate pool last spring. So last Friday, I invited all of the Red Creek staff that was part of the interview committees last spring. So all the people that hired Rachel to be the principal, and then all the people that hired Jason to be the assistant principal, and they all came together on a Zoom last Friday, and we talked about what our best options were, and we all decided that we would like to go with an interim principal for this year and an interim assistant principal, because we said on such short notice we'd like to be dating, not get married right away. And so Jason originally applied for the assistant principalship. He has agreed to serve as the interim principal this year, with the caveat that at the end of the year, when we get to next spring, if he wants to revert back to the assistant principalship like intended, that is 100% his right to do that, which means the person who is serving in the interim assistant principal, she's had a whole year to earn the job of principal should she choose to apply, or we would repost, either way we would post the job of principal if Jason went to that assistant principalship. So because Jason has decided to, or agreed to take on the interim principalship, I don't also want to give him Title 6, and so that one is going to revert to Nicole Sullivan, who's done it the last couple of years. So we will retype that resolution up and bring it back to you next month. And Nicole, I apologize that you're just finding out now.
I had ESP.
You knew it, I knew. As soon as I said Title 6, Nicole's like, it's coming back, isn't it?
Who's going to be the assistant principal?
So the assistant principal is a lovely woman named Kristen Potter that we interviewed last spring for the principalship, and then we invited her back to interview again for the assistant principalship. The committee from Red Creek felt very strongly that they were excited about it. I called her last Friday. She was still teaching summer school in her previous district, and she's like, this was not on my bingo card for today to suddenly get an administrative job. So she's going to be joining us tomorrow at Red Creek. So she's super excited. Her name is Kristen Potter. She is an instructional coach, and she has a 316 reading license, and she has been an interventionist as well. So she's got a very, very, very strong instructional background. We're excited to have her join.
Portfolio.
Yeah.
And a bingo card.
And a bingo card. So, annual operating resolutions need your formal approval, and we will bring back the Title VI one next month when it has been corrected.
My motion to accept these operating resolutions with the exception of the Title VI one.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
We got another aye. We got 7 ayes.
All right, the employment recommendations, you can see that the principals have been very, very busy. I just have to tell you that we asked the mentoring committee to do I skipped one. Skipped Nicole, she was up there and ready. Actually, this was one that I just asked them to review. You don't need to walk them through it if you don't want to, unless people have questions. You had all the links and so forth, so, okay. Those were just for your information. We spend an awful lot of time with teacher onboarding and just wanted you to see all of those opportunities that they have. Iftikhar and Casey were able to join us for the new staff breakfast on Monday, which was much appreciated. And today Nick did the welcome address for the whole staff gathering, so I appreciate the board making themselves available for those things.
Could I just share one thing, that this year we welcomed all the new teachers with their walk-up song, so there was good music pumping for each person as they walked on. It brought a lot of energy and excitement, and it was super fun, and the mentor team committee did a really great job putting it together.
There's high fives all around, welcome to the team.
Dancing was fabulous.
Yes, it was super fun. So if there's no questions on that, and then the employment recommendations, I apologize, you see there's lots and lots of changes from the time the packet went out. We added Kristen Potter onto there she is. We did add her on for your approval as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this an unnatural amount of churn?
There's more late turnover than there has been, but everybody who engaged with our new teachers as a group this year compared to previous years said this year we have so many more staff who've got a few years teaching experience other places and are coming to us. We have fewer brand new individuals, which is super exciting because not only do they bring some years of experience with them, but ideas from other systems that have been successful. And so I would say the timing is a little bit more intense with some of our hires than it has been, but the number is probably, so we had 19 new teachers.
22.
Now we're up to 22. And so our professional staff is full other than one speech and language path, which we are just not going to be able to hire. We will end up contracting that service. So all of our teachers are hired. We need 3 more support staff.
Is there a reason some of them are on the resignation list twice?
I'm sorry, what?
Is there a reason some of them are on twice?
Nope. I would guess that was an error on,
Accident.
okay.
So there's 6 resignations instead of 8.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sorry.
Do we do exit interviews?
We invite them.
Does the board ever get to see those?
Yep, and so we don't make them, obviously. We send a Google link and an invitation to make an appointment with me if they would like. Once a year, I think it's on our core agenda that I share out the feedback that we get on that. So I do share that out. Most of the time, it is younger people leaving because they're driving from Eau Claire and La Crosse, and after a few years' experience, they get hired in those communities. We've got, the middle school has a big carpool, God, I couldn't think of that word for a second, a big carpool coming from Eau Claire, and some of them were thinking about applying elsewhere this year, and Dan's like, well, if one of them goes, the whole carpool might find someplace else, so we were glad that they stayed. But yeah, lots of came here, found somebody, ready to have babies moved back by their parents. And then there certainly is some that left, like our high school tech ed and our middle school tech ed, both went right back to their home districts. So they graduated college, they came here for a bit and then moved back to their home districts. So lots of reasons.
I'd say that hiring has changed even in the last 6 years to becoming later and later because the carousel moving around. If somebody starts, a different district starts late, they have to fill late, which, you know, passes it on to somebody else. In the last few years, that's gotten later and later.
So that was my next question is, I mean, I know you can't do, I mean, we do retention incentives, you can't do a retention disincentive.
So if
but
you
is
break
there
contract late,
is there a way that you can somehow discourage people jumping ship in a week before? Is there a way that people can get like an advance that they have to give back if they leave a week before school starts? Or?
So we have it's a breach of contract because they sign it in the spring, and if they resign after students are done, it's $600 to break their contract. Once it hits August, it's
$400.
Oh, 400?
Yep, through June.
Okay.
And then $600 in July. August 1st is $1,000.
August 1st is $1,000, and I will tell you, every district I'm aware of will pay that fee for a teacher if they want that teacher to come. And so then we're just penalizing other school districts who are going to pay it. Unfortunately, it is just the way that hiring has gone. Teachers know that they have choices. I started off with the new staff. You have choices in where you work. We are so glad that you picked us, right?
In vice versa, we're paying other districts.
We are
taking
taking
So then my last question is, we do exit interviews. Do we do retention interviews?
So each of the principals has a little bit different take on it. Some are super regimented with monthly rounding. New teachers I round with and ask them things like, why did you pick us? You interviewed other places, why did you choose us? And so we get some great, most of the time the feedback is that interview team just made me feel comfortable. I could see myself working with them. I used to giggle, the new teachers would be sitting around the table and we'd say, how much did your salary play a role in it? And one girl's like, I didn't even know how much I was making. My mom was so mad when she asked me, what are they paying you? And I said, I don't know, I'm just gonna go there. So I don't think initial salary is as big of a deal for some of our brand new staff. It is the work culture that they are interviewing. I think our principals do a great job getting other staff members invested in the hiring. So we always have teachers sitting in on those committees, and so that teacher gets to see some of the people that they would be engaging with on a regular basis. They meet their immediate supervisor. So we try to garner it. I will tell you, I could probably count on one hand, or maybe half of it, the number of people who left who were genuinely upset about something that happened here. Is that fair? In the exit interviews that we get, principals will tell you, we often get resignations with tears because they're so sad to leave us. They're afraid that the culture in the new school isn't going to feel the same, but they just don't want that work commute anymore. So
then, having seen this in previous places I've worked and other places I know it worked, the whole you get the job and then when you get the one that's in Eau Claire or wherever, you go back there as soon as it opens. Is there any sort of program to pipeline people from BRF back to BRF when they get teaching?
can you tell me more about, oh, you mean our own high school
To
graduates?
encourage our own
Gotcha,
graduates
gotcha,
who might
yep.
get a teaching degree to come back and teach in this district specifically. Could we have some sort of hometown incentive besides being a hometown?
We certainly could. We do not currently, but we certainly could. Honestly, last year there was a news article written about the school district because we have about 300 full-time employees and 60 of them are Black River Falls graduates. That was the number last year.
And I bet they are statistically significantly more likely to stay.
Probably.
2 alums this year.
And, okay, so
Yeah.
we had 2
Jeff
more
Watson and-
teaching staff, even more support staff, right? Yes.
Oh, yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
So 2 more teachers that left us graduated and came back.
So even if it was just having some sort of communication with grads is there a way we can find out which of our graduates are in teaching programs and maybe even just be like, hey, we're looking or something like that?
I'm not aware of how we could know all of that, but I do know that a lot of our people interested in going into education programs, the high school is aware of them ahead of time, and so some of them are the kids that are tagged to teach at Blast, and so then there's conversations. I know whenever I know somebody who's graduating, I make sure to tell them, we'd love to see you back, let us know when you're graduating, right? I don't know if Kim or Nate have any thoughts of other conversations at the high school for people that you know are going into education?
I think our counselors have a lot of conversations about, there is a education academy through CBTC, right? So that they can start their education pathway in high school. So they talk about that, so they're getting started a little bit earlier. But they have lots of conversations about the different pathways that they can take and different things they can do well in high school to prepare themselves. We have TAs, so teaching assistants that go to the elementary school and high school, or in high school too. So they get opportunities to be in classrooms with our teachers as well. And hopefully they're setting a good example and wanting to come back here too. So
I would also add that when we have high school students that we know want to go into teaching, we also encourage them to consider Black River Falls when they do student teaching.
The daycare center is another place that a lot of future educators are choosing to work, and so that's another connection. Drew Semison, the Alma Center superintendent, had proposed that idea to Melrose Mindoro and myself, that were we interested in starting a teacher education path scholarship for kids going into college to be teachers. And my personal opinion on that was that doesn't feel great using taxpayer dollars for a scholarship for a student who may or may not complete. And so then we kind of talked through it and we said maybe there could be a lump sums upon signing contract that they could use to pay off any debt that they had if they were a graduate from any of the Jackson County schools. And then if they came home, it was, I don't know, $2,500. If they went to another Jackson County school, it was $1,500 or something. So we've talked about that. We just haven't put that into practice yet.
It might be worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Because
it starts with kids having a good experience while they're at
from
school.
the town.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, say that part again?
People stay when they're from this town.
Do we know what the attrition rate is actually?
I'm sorry, say it again?
Do we know what the attrition rate is?
Attrition, I did not do the math this year, sorry, because they were still coming in last Tuesday. So I usually on our scorecard.
From Jackson County in general?
I'm sorry.
Never mind, I'll
Okay.
I'll look at my.
I have no, I wouldn't know any of the kids that graduated from Melrose that we hired. I happen to know one, but just because she played basketball, and so I know that. But I don't know who else has gone to school in Jackson County, if not ours. This year, Jeff Dobson and Cheyenne Iverson both came back. It is great.
Really, like just out of college? Or?
Cheyenne taught she did some long-term subbing for us for a year, got hired in Toma, taught there, and now came back to Black River. Jeff Dobson graduated last December and did some subbing for us in the spring, and then was hired this spring. You're absolutely right. When you move to a rural community, I think that's even more true, that somebody relocating from Middleton to Black River Falls has a significant shift in snack food availability, delivery services, Uber, all of those things, where somebody who's from Black River Falls already knows what to expect. And so you're right that their longevity is probably a greater chance of being successful. So I do need.
So make a motion to approve the new hires.
Second that?
Aye.
All in favor of approving the new hires?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
And for the record, I called Nick before I made the interim offers for the principals at Red Creek. I just wanted his approval before kind of going off script, and he was fine with it, so I appreciate that.
All right.
Now Nicole's ready.
Cool.
Okay, so after we met last time, we talked a lot about early literacy, family communication, and I met with the elementary principals and instructional coaches about some things that we can put together kind of to support our communication around early literacy and for K through 3. So on the next slide, this was a document to share it with families, but kind of like the base document that we can use to really help us talk about different milestones or first steps and goals for grade level goals, and then stretch goals. So what it is for each grade level, the different areas that are assessed in early literacy, and in the fall, winter, and spring, what you'd expect to see in each of those areas, at those different rates and targets. So that 24th percentile is an important first step, and we should be sharing out with families what that is, as well as just the grade level target, the 19, but then to have that stretch target available as you move forward. So this just is the information that will be used to help with teachers communicating out, and myself and our instructional coaches around these different areas between the milestone, grade level target, and the stretch goal. And so then we talked a great deal last month about communication and increasing our communication around literacy, early literacy. And so this was already a goal at Forest Street. They had some goals as part of their improvement plan about how they were going to be sending out information from classrooms this year. And then, so just to be inclusive of that, there'll be information coming out from the district office for myself and our literacy specialists around early literacy that's going to focus on the different things listed. So just kind of some background information, and then activities that can be done at home that necessarily wouldn't have to be printed, but the different types of literacy activities that are helpful at each grade level, and we shift them up throughout the year. And then these are just example to-go activities that we are going to be able to post on our website and send home in folders. So some coming from the district level, and then some of these are activities that are going to be part of like a bingo square. Am I saying that right, Christina? It was a bingo card, or like
a choice board.
A choice board that students can participate in. And this be literacy from Forest Street, but they are also going to be have math activities and social emotional learning as well. And then just additionally wanted to express that we at the open house, I'm so sorry, at open house this week, we will have tables set up with information for families around all these early literacy, all this work. And the other thing that we are going to be able to do is send out information on personal reading plans. So families are just going to be asked to sign up. It's basically for an email that they'll be getting from the NextPath website. So families will get additional information from NextPath via email versus having to have another app on their phone or anything like that. But they just have to verify that it is them before they can get that information from NextPath. Any other, I think that was my last slide on this. So we put this together, just after our conversation last month, so hopefully this is what you're looking for.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, we're going to give you an update on our at-risk programs. I'm going to talk about an overview of our programs in our district. You can go to the next slide. So what is at risk? Children at risk of not graduating from high school are defined as pupils in grades 5 through 12 who are at risk of not graduating from high school because they're dropouts or they're two or more of the bulleted items on that list.
Sorry, that was fast.
That's okay, just in case you guys have not learned about the definition of at-risk. So that 2025 at-risk plan is attached in there. New to the plan, I would say last year, is our Blast After School programming. We have community health worker programs. We have partnerships and 2 workers that are district employees that are community health workers, and then the Jackson County Resiliency Alliance. I don't think you want me to go through that document. Okay, awesome.
It was in their packet, so if they have questions, you can certainly answer them, but.
So our vision in the district is that the school district of VRF creates an individualized path to future success for every student through the consistent practices of dedicated educators and meaningful partnerships with families and our community. We focus on academics, personal and social skill building, and college and career readiness. So there is a screening and application process. The high school transition meetings happen with Kim and Nate, grade level conferences with high school counselors, and we learn of student preferences or staff preferences or needing to move students through CAST meetings. And again, there's a description of the different programs attached in there.
Brandon, if you want to click on the Ed data there. I don't.
Nope, that's it.
All the way at the end. There we go, right there. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit specifically about the numbers in our alt-ed programs at the high school. So this is a data sheet that you guys have seen in the past, so I just added to the this past year. So the first number that you'll see is our Renaissance program, which is through the tech college here in town. So our students that go there earn an HSED with the Black Earth Falls High School diploma. And so it's a little bit different pathway than what we have to offer in-house. But you can see we had 7 students that had graduated from that program last year. And then 1 that returned to our Phoenix program in our district. So that's what that number is there. If you scroll down, our Phoenix program, we had 28 graduates. And then our Phoenix program has juniors and seniors. And so our Phoenix program really focuses on credit recovery. So we take a real hard look, especially after their sophomore year. If they are on track for graduation, they would stay at the high school. If they are falling behind in credits, or 26 credits to graduate, we have to have some conversations with that kid and the families to discuss alternate paths to graduation. So you can see what our numbers break down to there. You can see we did drop a couple of students for not attending, and so that number is shown in I know it's in there somewhere. Drop. Yep. So that third one, right, is dropped. So we had 4 students that we dropped for not attending. Good. You can scroll down, Brandon. Challenge Academy is another option for our students. We usually have a couple every year. This year we had 2 students that attended the Challenge Academy and they did graduate. And once they graduate from Challenge Academy, they are done. They don't come back to the high school at that point. So we had a couple students successfully complete that. And then if you keep scrolling down,
Do they get a GED or a diploma from us, or what happens when they graduate Challenge Academy?
They get an HSED, but we also give them our diploma.
Okay.
So it's part of our alt-ed programming.
They put together a portfolio while they're there, and then they have to come back and present that too, don't they?
Yep.
Yep, so there is a kind of a closure back at our high school after the program.
Okay. And then the WIN program, we changed the name of the WIN program, so that was the alt-ed program that was over at the Gebhardt building. Last year was the first year that we had, we changed it to Apex, and it was what I would consider a school within a school model of alt-ed. So this would be our freshmen and sophomores. And so you can see we had 12 freshmen and 13 sophomores in our Apex program. So it looks a little bit different. Our freshmen, they are a cohort together and they travel together throughout the day. They do their core classes together, and then their electives will be with some of their other peers. And so when they are traveling together, they have an adult in their room as well as one of our high school teachers. And we thought, when we reflected on it at the end of the year, we were very happy with the progress that our freshmen made throughout the year. They get identified from their 8th grade year. We talk with 8th grade staff, with Dan, with the counselors over at the middle school to identify which students will be a good fit for that program. And then as sophomores, it's a little bit of a gradual release. There's not quite as much support. However, they do have a class period throughout their day that they can get some academic support with our alt-ed teacher at school. And so that's 1 hour of their day for some academic support. So that's what those numbers look like.
The 25 served, they all went back to their mainstream classes.
Say that again.
You have 12 freshmen and 13 sophomores,
Yep.
and then total served. Did all of those successfully return? Or are they
So
going to be in the program again?
Yeah, so like the freshmen will they will be a part of the Apex program again as sophomores.
Okay.
But again, it looks different. It's just one period in their day as an elective for academic support.
Okay.
And so they will be returning into that as sophomores.
So perhaps another question off of that, the Phoenix and Renaissance are for juniors and seniors. Are there any students that were in Apex as sophomores that are planning on Phoenix or Renaissance, or were all of those sophomores that were in Apex going to complete credits as juniors in the high school?
I don't have the numbers.
That's
right
great,
in front of
that's
me.
great. I wasn't sure if you would have
I don't
kids
have it
in
right
mind, is
front
what
of
I
me,
was
so
wondering.
None
I'm
of
just
the
trying to
sophomores
think.
moved over right now, there's one on the fringe.
Okay, there you go. So then they did reintegrate back into all regular classes. It's been, in my opinion, that has been a really strong transition program from middle school to high school. It really caught a lot of those kids that would get extremely credit deficient already their freshman year, so it feels self-defeating year after year as it piles on. It's been a really, really strong intervention.
And as you can see by our numbers in Phoenix, they have grown the last couple of years. We want to try to decrease those numbers going through the Phoenix program. And so I think through the Apex program with that support early on, being a little more proactive, we can catch some of those students, build some skills early on, and hopefully allow them to stay at the high school and not get too far behind. So those are kind of how the systems, our all-ed systems work together.
Any questions about the LTED programming? Kind of layers as the kids go through the years. Great. Thank you very much, guys.
So these slides are just a little quick glimpse into 8th grade.
No, well, kind of late. Sorry, that gentleman was our new LTED teacher. We probably should have introduced him. I didn't realize that he was here for that presentation. Sorry, missed opportunity. I apologize.
I don't think he was here for he just wanted to come to the board meeting.
Sure, absolutely. I was just saying that while we were talking about his program, it would have been nice of us to introduce him, and I didn't think of it until after he was gone, so I apologize.
Here's the card.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
So we got some really awesome Wisconsin Forward Science results, and we just wanted to share those, but as an opportunity first to go into and talk to you a little bit about the curriculum work that we're doing and our efforts around school improvement and our guaranteed and viable curriculum. And so this picture is the image that we use as the backbone of the work that we've been going through, which includes really looking at the standards for each course, unpacking them, talking about what they mean, creating rubrics, developing unit plans, scope and sequence. And we just have been working through this process with teams of teachers throughout the entire district, and it's been a pretty monster lift by the principals to ensure that their teachers are able to engage in the work. And our teachers have just really committed to it, and we're starting to see some cool results as a result of all of that effort. And so on the next slide, this is just an example. Oh, so these are the actual results. And so what is wonderful about this was Niagara Falls Middle School, 8th grade on the left, and we are outpacing the state of Wisconsin in the advanced category and meeting category, the advanced and meeting category combined. And then at the bottom in developing, we have less than the state. So that's really big news for us, and awesome data to be seeing. And so that's the work the science department is doing, but also the rest of the work in the elementary schools and in the middle school as a whole. On the next slide, I just wanted to show an example of the work. So what they have been doing then is really looking at the standards, and in science, the way the standards work is that they are across different domains. So you have like science and engineering standards, and you have standards that are just the good practices in science, and you have content standards, and they all live in different places, so that The teachers have been working really hard to pull them together and identify what is the really important work at each grade level, and this is the document where that work lives. And then on the next slide is a unit plan and all the different resources that they pulled together, and it's all deeply connected to the work of the standard and unpacking that into how students can achieve that level of standard. And it's just nice to see that all of that effort and work gets played out in seeing those types of test results. I wanted to share that good news with you.
This is where you're supposed to go. Yay!
See?
Thank you, Nicole. And then back.
Dan,
No, it's good.
congratulations, team on that, that's awesome.
We worked hard.
We highlighted it today in the auditorium and they were awful proud. I was working with them later in the day and they were like, that was kind of wild to have everybody shout out just to our little team, so. They were pretty excited.
I'd add too, you know, we talked about the size of how hard they work in the half, right? And I give them all the credit. But even with our ELA teachers reading for content, right? Reading for information and the writing parts that we're all working on as a whole school, all of that stuff helped with that part, right? So it's, Nicole said whole school, it's whole school. But especially good work for our science department that done your teamwork.
So the last little snippet I want to share today is some information around a pilot that we're doing through CESA 4 called Liftoffs. And so the goal of Liftoffs is to really engage in acceleration of student learning and to really focus in on student engagement by looking at instructional practices and harnessing the power of AI or artificial intelligence. And so on the next slide, this is just information about our vision for why we're engaging with CESA 4 in Liftoffs. And so what we really is all those things I just talked about. It's about really thinking about our instructional practices, increasing student engagement, and connecting all of those things to that work I was just talking about in science, that framework of a guaranteed environmental curriculum, and ensuring that we have good practices in place connected to our standards. And so then on the next slide, what happened this summer is the principals worked really hard to identify teams to go down to CESA, work with our CESA team, and learn about the framework around liftoffs and how teachers can be coached with CESA 4 and those instructional practices, and just the power that AI has in helping us be more efficient and to personalize learning where we can, including things like having more project-based learning and a deeper focus on not just differentiating for students who need more help, but accelerating for the students who are ready for that acceleration. And as a school board, you voted and to invest in some programming, and we purchased some really good programming for our students is to help along with that personalized paths. So things are going to be happening like at the middle school through those platforms having Algebra 1 in 8th grade. There's going to be other ways to have those acceleration pieces happen across the content areas. And so it's going to start with these pilot classes, and we're going to get a lot of support from our CESA through this Liftoffs program. And what's cool about Liftoffs is that it's kind of getting national recognition right now. So like the big names of like platforms are giving us all sorts of deals because it's getting such energy and a lot of notice. For example, a really great math program is called Alex Math, and they're offering it to us for half price this year because we're associated with that Liftoffs program. So there's a lot of exciting things going on in this domain. And those are the things I was just talking about. Those, yeah. Oh, and here you can see who the other school districts that are part of Liftoffs.
So can I ask a question? I was at the CESA 4 meeting, and it looks like there's like kind of long-term planning associated with Liftoff and the rest of the AI initiative, and that this CESA region is kind of leading that. Do we have as a school kind of a idea as to where we're headed and how we fit in? Because I know there's the individual learning centers like Whitehall and Sparta are taking on, but I'm wondering kind of, are we thinking that's the direction you're heading, or
So that's exactly the pilot that she was talking about, that there's a team from each of the schools that is engaging in that work and talking about how it will augment the work that they're doing here. So then the next documents that I was going to talk you through is about our local guidance around AI and artificial intelligence, and then we shared an awful lot of that with staff today. But those liftoff teachers are going to be piloting that work throughout their buildings, and so they are going to help us. And Brittany Waltz, the one who's facilitating the liftoffs, keeps talking about we are literally building it as we go, because it is very new technology that is rapidly changing. They are in year 2. We are in the first year that we signed on, but our admin all took teachers down for a couple days. I went for a day. There's just lots and lots of learning, and some of the other schools have tried some of these other platforms and already have lessons to learn. CISA is starting to put together a repository of all of the different AI tools for student use and keep track of the outcomes that they're getting with each one of them, so that we can start to be more efficient with this one. X number of schools have gotten this kind of impact from, and so we're not all wading through the volume of possible options right away. So, yeah.
I would say from my seat, they've kind of talked about 4 different phases of the liftoff programming. As a district, what I've been telling staff is that we're firmly committed to the model of a standards-based education model that I was sharing in those previous slides. And we are interested in learning as much as we can about efficient ways to personalize learning.
So that was exactly my question. You just had a presentation on how you've overhauled the way you develop course content and integrate course content to make sure it follows this. And then all of the buzz I always hear about the AI helping schools is in syllabus generation, in class content generation. Do these tools complement the program that you were trying to develop?
We have been using AI to support creation of syllabi.
Well, even the 8th grade science teacher we facilitate an advanced AI sectional this afternoon, and one of the science teachers was talking about, because we've also talked about artificial intelligence and how we can use it to increase student engagement, because if you ask just about any teacher, they're going to tell you the greatest challenge they have is how to get kids who don't care to get them to engage. And so she said that they would be working on a scientific method, and she had already developed some fantastic means where it was human interaction, put it into AI, and then the kids would have to evaluate what AI generated for them and then prove their hypothesis. So it is being integrated in a way that increases students' engagement in the content, as opposed to coming up with simple worksheets that students could simply Google the answers to. So they're really trying to come at it from a focus of more creative thinking and problem solving through using AI to help generate some of those prompts and stuff like that for the teacher planning part, as well as in addition to the students. Some of the student platforms that use the AI, their strength is that differentiation immediately, right? And also the chat bot, that it can live reteach a concept, and if the student still makes an error, it can go back and explain it in another way. Kid makes an error, it goes back and explains it yet again, and meanwhile the teacher is getting a report that says, the student tried it 3 times, they were engaging with the content, they still don't get it. That's great for that teacher to know that they have to then circle back to that student, as opposed to getting a report, didn't engage with the chat bot, and so don't know if they know it or not, just know that they weren't willing to. So it helps to differentiate some of that can't do or won't do, which is a real challenge for a lot of our classrooms. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's really pretty amazing to hear. So we did one session for elementary, then one for secondary. And the elementary, there was maybe 15 people in. The secondary, I think we had 35, 40 teachers that and we just shared out some of the meaningful ways that they've used AI to enhance student engagement already. And there's just some really creative things happening, which is pretty exciting. Okay.
Thank you.
As Nicole is sitting down, I would just like to give her a shout out. all of the principals do the hiring all summer, and then it gets to August, and she is supposed to magically work with all the committees and make sure all of that new staff knows all of the things that Black River Falls has as our priorities, our strategic plan, our instructional practices, all of that stuff. And her August is absolutely just running and flying faster than is even reasonable to expect from somebody. The principals rely on her very heavily. Today I was with her doing a couple presentations. The number of staff who come up to her with quick random follow-up questions from work that they were working on this summer and they just needed to check in with her again. She juggles so much this time of year and is just doing an absolute fantastic job. So very much, and look at how many things she presented on for you tonight. Last week when I was asking her for the board package, she's like, why did we put all these in August? So she's been presenting since about, or up with staff since about 7 a.m. this morning. So I just really appreciate all that coordination from Nicole.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on to 9.1, monthly expenditures.
Thanks for the answer on the voided checks.
Got it. I'm sure everyone's ordered on Amazon and saw the long
Yeah.
stuff on there. That's all it is.
Okay. I'll move to approve the August monthly expenditures.
I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, meeting minutes. Good morning. 10.1 meeting minutes from last month.
It's 4.
Thank you, Jeanette. We appreciate it. She means she was voting for,
Oh,
not
right.
against, because of the delay. She just wanted to make sure that we weren't counting her as against.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as written from last month.
I'll second that. All signify by saying aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Not so much. 10.2 district administrator report.
So in the past, the school board members have taken a facility tour in August, and we didn't talk about it in July. I'm curious if that is something that you're interested in doing. What we've done in the past is we pick a date, and it usually takes us about 2 hours. We literally drive around and walk through each of the facilities. Brandon and Kent would be along. Gives you an opportunity to ask questions, to see with your own eyes, and just kind of keep tabs on all of those things. I'm seeing, is there interest in doing that by the whole group or even a part of the group?
I am, but I've never taken one.
Yeah.
If I'd taken 3 before, it might be different.
Sure.
I also have never taken one, so
Okay,
I would
I think
be
it would be great.
interested.
Can't wait to show you the boiler.
The boiler.
The boiler. It's technically two.
Can I bring a Band-Aid and just slap it on the side and take care of it?
It's really expensive for a boiler.
Well, all the venting would all have to be redone because.
You got asbestos abatement.
Yes, we sure do.
No,
Yes, we sure do.
That's probably some of it.
1950s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we've done other projects in that building, we most definitely have had abatement. So do we wanna pick a date? Do we wanna look at calendars? Do you want me to send out a doodle poll? What would you like?
I'm curious if it would be worth waiting until our upper 90 guys are done with their report.
I think that could be a while though.
Yeah.
The flooring debacle, they believe they're gonna be done with flooring at Forest Street on Wednesday, so that will be fantastic of this week, right? So I just feel like that might be a while, but,
So we look at it first and then we'll see.
right, right.
You may point out a few of the aging assets, you know, as we're walking around, we expect to see them branded when they show up.
Jumpstart is next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then September 2nd is the official first day.
I wasn't sure if it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You don't have a preference, or I'll send out a doodle poll to find that date, and whoever can make it, great. That was all that I had on that, although we kind of jumped over those AI guidance documents. I don't know if you looked through them in your packet, if you had any questions or concerns with the language included in there. We'd like to use these as guiding documents with our staff and students, but wanted you to feel comfortable with them first. So they were introduced as drafts today. What is that?
They're all terrifying. I'm not comfortable with any of them. It doesn't mean they're not good. They're
Fair.
they're perfectly good.
Fair enough.
General principle of the thing terrifies me.
Yep. So you would have liked the presentation today where she said, how many of you are using AI regularly? And about 45% raised their hands. And then she said, so you don't use Alexa or Siri or Netflix and let it predict shows for you. You don't use named Google, all of the things that is already reading your actions and making suggestions.
No, I don't.
You don't use any
I
of them.
don't.
Okay, that is very
I
fair
bang
then.
rocks together and I like it that way.
So, all right, thank you. I don't have any of the remaining items.
I will tell you, WASB has a bunch of new stuff up, and it's very interesting. The insurance one, I was like, oh no. So I would recommend it. They will report them. So if you're find yourself an extra time, because we allow some of that. I like to play them when I'm doing other things, and then I'll kind of listen in at the same time. Also, the CISA 4 meeting was this last week or 2 weeks ago. And AI is a huge topic over there too. So they kind of kept bringing those, circling back on what that means for us and how we're collaborating with the wider region.
Can you briefly, when we were talking about the insurance thing, were you suggesting that you could get discounts on your insurance bills if you have newer furnaces?
No, it was more don't get hosed.
Okay.
So it kind of outlines a lot of the ways that insurance companies right now are taking advantage, and schools are kind of having to bite the bullet on expenses associated with damage and things like that in terms of cost of replacement and things. So I'm not going to try. I hung in there to understand it, but I'm not going to try and reiterate it for you. I would just say that some of those, I have gone through 6 of them now in the last few weeks, and some of them are really good, and then some of them are, okay. But there's just new ones out.
No discounts is what I heard.
No, as a matter of fact, it's you gotta be careful.
Yeah, yes, very much so. We're part of a consortium that helps to evaluate all of the property and liability and all of those insurances so that it's not the wild, wild west with each person having to negotiate with every single vendor. This group creates some purchasing power, right? And a lot of eyes looking at each of the proposals as opposed to, Brandon and I trying to make those decisions. There's a whole group that looks at it. Your Wormick?
I was interested, with the contract with the upper 90, it's not technically a contract, it's an AIA, but sent it to them, they looked it over, said, hey, ask them for these adjustments. So it's nice to have a second pair of eyes to look at it.
Okay, conferences with staff attendance. You're the attendee usually, right?
That was all in just one big old one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Alright, moving on then to 10.5, school board connection opportunities.
Open house is this Thursday in all the schools from 2 to 6. You are free to roam and greet and engage in conversations. Maybe a bright orange shirt with...
I can't find it, and it's bright orange.
It
I
sure
don't know
is.
why I can't find it. It's driving me mad. That's why you haven't seen it around all summer. I was going to wear the orange shirt.
Each of the schools is open.
Driving me nuts. Sorry.
Alright, future agenda items. We talked about some already, but any further?
What do we have on our future agenda that we just with
well, I have referendum MOU updates is what I have on there. I could open up our core agenda. I don't remember that off the top of my head. Okay. Yep.
I just want to make sure we had a referendum.
This isn't a future agenda item. I don't want to go back, but having lost a principal and an assistant principal from the same school at the same time, I mean, you're sitting here, which helps, but that's a huge vacuum of institutional knowledge.
Sure is. In fact, Jason and Brandon talked about that it's just nice. And everybody has talked about the very, very, very strong counselor team that's at Red Creek. And by strong, meaning leadership and systems and structures and assistance with student behaviors. And so Jason has already had the opportunity to work with those counselors a little bit. And they are both just absolutely professionals who are also committed. One of them is also an alumni, just to be clear, to finish that theme from later. I think that they'll lean heavily, and Brandon also said some of those annual things that come up, he'll be sure to talk to Jason about. Yeah, it's unfortunate both in the same year, for sure.
Obviously, sports are firing.
Yeah, sure are. Fall sports are on the way. Any other items for future agenda? Okay.
Well, that's sure. It's all you.
Well, the closed session.
No, we have to
We have to
move.
adjourn this one, don't we, first?
No, you read that and we go into closed session and then we adjourn from there. Yeah.
Can we take a little break between the two?
Yes.
Sure, but first let's read.
Alright, the school board will adjourn to closed session pursuant of Wisconsin statutes 1925:1 for the purpose of discussing medical, social, or personal history or disciplinary data of specific persons. Roll call.
Alexander Woods,
Present.
Michaela Conlon View,
Present.
Casey Weiss,
Here.
Jeanette Simonson,
She won't be able to do the closed session.
Present.
Nick Helsted,
Here.
Iftikhar Memon,
Here.
and Caitlin Cunningham.
Here.
So Jeanette will not be able to do closed session. Okay.
Board policy that you adopted states that board members may not participate in, it says,
For confidentiality reasons.
it says remote access during quasi judicial functions, termination hearings, expulsions, or any other closed session meeting is not permitted, is what the policy reads.
Oh, does that have a policy number?
Yep.
This is a real quick aside, but when you say board policy or something like that, it takes me forever to find it. If you could just drop a policy number or
I
something.
can
when
drop
you
a
do
policy. This one is 00164.
that. It at least gets me to the 00 tab, you know.
And so then the meeting is now in closed session, we can take a break.
So Kelly,
Yep.
should I just sign off?
Yes, you should, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight, Jeanette. We really appreciate it.
Let's take like a 5-minute recess.
Hey, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. I'll see you next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeanette. Bye-bye.
I want to imagine she's got like a sort of big old suit.
All you can do is doing it. I got it.
Have you lined up people to just
Yeah, it was
I didn't see if Jordan, but
Yes, please. Doing good.